The Euphrates River is one of the oldest and most beautiful natural bodies of water in the world. Due to its historical importance, many explanations have been made in recent years about the river and its surroundings to better understand human history. The myriad of mysteries surrounding the Middle led to the chilling discovery of the river. There is growing interest in. So let's learn about the most chilling discovery, yet about the largest water source in West Asia. For many Christians, the mention of urate draws attention to religious texts found in certain parts of Revelation or Genesis. Many others know the great river for their attention to geography in classes. No matter which class you belong to, you will definitely want to learn new and important information that the class has to offer. This river is one of the most important and longest rivers in Western Asia, originating in Turkey. It flows through mountains in the southeast and foothills in the south, through Syria and Iraq, and through various types of vegetation. In front of the Euphrates Basin's confluence with the Persian Gulf, patches of ancient vegetation remain, but centuries of human habitation and activity have significantly degraded the landscape. In 1923, the three shores of the Euphrates, France, Turkey, and Great Britain had to reach an agreement on the use of water and the construction of hydroelectric power plants. This shows how important the river was for politics as well as religion. Likewise, according to one source, the Euphrates is at its highest water level from April to May. This is because most of the water comes from rainfall and snowmelt. During these 2 months, the river discharges 60 to 70% of its total annual discharge, with less discharge during the summer and high season. According to a 1946 agreement between Turkey and Iraq, Turkey was obliged to notify Iraq of changes in water pressure it made on the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and Iraq was even allowed to build dams on Turkish land to control the flow of the Euphrates. But as of 2021, the news in the Middle East is reporting severe drought and a rapid drop in water levels, and in the following month, alarms began to sound about the fact that ancient rivers were drying up. Falling water levels have confused geological experts and are very concerned about what may be causing this dire situation. On land, the ramifications of the recession are evident, as water levels in severely dammed lakes drop as a result of the Turkish government's water restrictions, and the region's power supply and manufacturing are woefully inadequate. Agricultural water shortages are a death sentence in a country where 60% of the population struggles to put food on the table. In Iran, he is also at risk of 7 million people living without access to water. Governments are concerned about its limits, but the weather is not the Turkish government's Euphrates water reduction policy. According to the North Ani Autonomous Government, Syria will expose her 9 million Syrians living near the river to a humanitarian disasters. Most importantly, access to drinking water is becoming more difficult. This means it can have serious health consequences. The United Nations has also warned that the Mediterranean will experience increasingly devastating heat waves. Syria is one of the most at-risk countries, according to the Global Climate Risk Index, which claims even Lake Asa suffers from this pattern. A resident of Tahini village, yes. When the blackout increased from 9 hours a day to 19 hours, they shouted that the olive trees were thirsty and the animals were hungry. The problem seems to affect workers, as well as local residents, with some engineers worried that if things continue as they are, all power plants except bakeries, mills, and hospitals may shut down. Increase. There are only a handful of logical theories as to why rivers are drying up. People have thought that this event is related to the biblical book of Revelation. Surprisingly, few people were surprised by this development, claiming it had to happen. As the Bible records this event, what makes people even more frightened is the fact that the end of the world prophesied in the Bible is happening before their very eyes. Many believe that a key chapter in the Apocalypse book of Revelation provides evidence of Iraq's relevance in a doomsday scenario. The Euphrates River, which flows through modern-day Iraq, is mentioned in Revelation chapter 16, which also contains the only Armageddon allusion in the Bible. According to the book, the sixth angel poured his vial into the great river Euphrates, and its waters dried up to prepare the way for the kings of the east. According to religious subtext, Basa's content forced rivers to flow, and most of the water on earth was polluted or ruined by his former bowl. The purpose of this judgment does not seem to be to tame or stop using this water, but rather to break down the barrier and pave the way for the advancement of the eastern kingdoms. At the time the book of Revelation was written, the Euphrates River was divided into east and west, with the kingdoms of China and India to the east. This river is called a Great River several times in the Bible. It marked the legacy of the eastern border. It was a challenge for the enemy to cross, and because the desert lay between them, it protected Israel. Historically, Cyrus eradicated the Euphrates River that flows through Babylon, allowing pet soldiers to take control of the city before marching on it for centuries. Its dry riverbed flows into Babylon and takes over the city. In another biblical mention of the Euphrates, the sixth angel of God is said to release 4 angels who are held captive in the Euphrates the Great. In doing so, the agents of death that are said to be ready for this particular hour, day, month, and year, and will be released to kill a third of humanity will be released. Free. Rumors have been circulating lately, perhaps trying to justify this passage by spreading the news about some strange voices. Consider starting with a dry death. This further strengthened the people's belief that these events now occurring were signs of Christ's second coming to conquer his enemies and establish heaven. Professor Craig Hill is one of many biblical scholars who have complained that end-times interpreters are twisting the Bible to support their claims. He argued that many professors read the Bible literally, but actually used passages from books written hundreds of years apart in various situations. One of the most famous books, Ezekiel, was written in the 6th century BC. It was written by a Jewish priest who was exiled to Babylon and dreamed of the restoration of the temple and the return of the Jews to Babylon. A Christian immigrant who encouraged the church in Asia Minor to end Roman rule. 600 years later, around AD 95, the book of Revelation was written. It is also interesting to note that we read another text, the book of Enoch, to which some claims are directly related. Learn the story of Genesis, where Enoch, a prophet who predated Noah, told of a time when there were 200 angels called the Vigil. Their only duty is to watch over creation, and one day they saw a human woman under the influence of the fallen angel Lucifer, or otherwise. Born from the union were giants. According to some scholars, the giant breeding angels, who are being punished for their sins, remain trapped under the Euphrates and will be released to wipe out a third of the earth. What was previously difficult to understand is now more apparent and speaks volumes. While the most interesting notions about rivers revolve around biblical prophecies, other theories relate to current events, political goals, and climate change around the 1980s. So do you think we'll witness the apocalypse come to life? Or do you think it has something to do with climate and politics? Let us know in the comments.